New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Allie Benjamin, and it is my great joy to be here today with you, whether you're here for the first time, and if you are, welcome, or whether you're back because you love having this time together where I have conversations with amazing people, soul-centered individuals that are channeling their time, their talent, their energy, their resources, their love, their creativity into doing good work in the world and making this beautiful world a better place. And so today we're doing a special episode. I'm calling it Enneagram at the Growing Edge, aka Enneagram Chat. And I have my co-host with me, my beloved friend, Dr. Michelle Medrano. Where are you? There she is. Hello and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're having another Enneagram chat, or as I keep forgetting the name, Enneagram at the Growing Edge.
Yes. I like all those names though, so any of those work.
Yeah, good. So how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I had a really wonderful and inspiring weekend. We had the great Karen Drucker here with us for our women's ministry at Mile High Church, and we had a great retreat with about 100 women, and it was just a wonderful experience. And then she was at our service on Sunday, so it's been a wonderful, busy, full weekend and rich.
Yeah, I know how it is when Karen is leading a group.
Oh yeah.
She's pretty dynamic, and she always seems to stir up something magical.
Yep.
And her music has been sort of, as I think back over my journey with New Thought and Science of Mind, religious science, there's a Karen Drucker soundtrack to it.
Yeah, I call it the soundtrack of our spiritual lives, that she has been a part of the soundtrack of our spiritual lives for so many of us for many, many years.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I led a women's group yesterday. Yeah, was it Sunday? Yeah. And we played some of her music, and it really gets to the depth of our hearts and stirs something within us that wants to, come forth more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to have a friend who was a musician who would say, when you're singing and chanting, because Karen's music, a lot of it is, she writes beautiful songs and a lot of great chants that we can sing along to. When you're chanting, try worrying about paying your bills at the same time you're chanting. You can't do both. So that's one of the blessed things about music and chanting and singing with an artist like Karen is that it really makes us present. And in that presence, we speak such positive words or sing such positive words. And that hits the nervous system at such deep levels. So it feels like magic, but it's just the way we're wired, I think. So.
Yeah, it's one music, especially Karen's music, it's one of those ways that we can drop in really quickly.
Yes.
And remember what our essence or our soul already knows. Because in the normal world, especially, so many of us are very busy. We're dealing with a lot of challenges, or, and we can get really hijacked by that mind that wants to overthink, over strategize, or fear that arises or whatever. And so play a song and it seems like, whoo, all of that diminishes. And then
Mhm.
we're like, oh, I'm back. I'm back
Yes.
online.
Yes. And isn't that a great segue into what we want to talk about today? Huh?
It
Very
is.
well done.
It's perfect. And I was looking at my playlist from yesterday, and the song was Beautiful, True, and Divine
Oh,
was
yes.
the name of the
Yep.
song. Did she
Beautiful.
play that one for you?
Not this weekend, no, but I do know that song.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's really, really sweet. Yeah, that was a great segue. I have something that
Yes.
I want to read
Oh,
as an
good. Okay.
introduction to what we're doing here.
Great.
As Michelle alluded to, we're going to be talking about how our ego personality structure can sometimes cloud out that essential self, our soulful self, our higher self. And so here we go. The Enneagram reveals how our egoic self, formed in early childhood as a strategy to survive, belong, and be loved, can hijack our deeper essence, which is inherently whole, wise, and loving. Each type carries a divine spark, but when unconscious, it becomes veiled by fixations, fears, and habitual reactions. By seeing this clearly, we reclaim the sacred within and live with greater alignment, agency, and grace.
That's beautiful. Did you
Yeah,
write that?
I did. I did.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. Well, oh, wow. That was great,
Yeah,
Allie.
and so I
Thank you.
think that that sort of covers what the sort of the essence of the Enneagram. Because
Mhm.
many people, they hear about the Enneagram, especially in our circles where people are
Mhm.
looking to do inner work and have a deeper experience with the divine. um, we can, just get lost in the details sometimes of all of this. But
Mhm.
when we focus in, I lost my train of thought, I must admit. I was like, oh, too many thoughts coming in at once. um, so
Yes. Yeah, I think isn't it the perennial search? I mean, if we really look at what humans really yearn for, I think, even though we think we may yearn for money or love or health or all these constructs in our lives, we're really looking for that experience of ourselves and our essential nature, the essence of who we are that's a core part of us. And I think most humans spend a lot of our time trying to get past those all those things you listed, the habits, the ego, the parts that we've just used to strategize and cope with. And there are many ways to do that, and the Enneagram is a great tool because once we find ourselves in the Enneagram, it makes that work clear. It makes it clear, okay, I lead with this number, so therefore here might be some potential blind spots that are part of my egoic structure that I developed as strategies that I can now work with to deepen myself into my essential nature. And then each number has its qualities that have been articulated that represent its essential nature, so then it's easier for me to see and feel myself when I'm in that centered place, because sometimes we don't even recognize that because we're kind of confused about how do I know? How do I know? How do I find myself and all this? And this is like, we can help you find yourself and
yeah,
then do the work.
yeah, it's a
Mhm.
beautiful system, and it really gets specific.
Yes.
And it can be hard sometimes to take a look at this, because as many people I've talked to, and some of my coaching clients, that when they read through the types, when they start to do a little searching of, okay, which
Mhm.
type am I, they usually will find one that's like particularly upsetting or
Disturbing, right?
disturbing.
I'm willing to be any number but that one.
Exactly, because we don't oftentimes see, when we're stuck in patterns and fixations and reactions and in our personality, we don't typically see that as
Mhm.
ourselves. We're just kind of, you know, we're trying to get over an obstacle. We're trying to get somewhere, so we devolve into these unhealthy patterns, but we don't really see ourselves as that. So when something like the Enneagram can say, describe some of these things, it can be a little hard to swallow.
Yeah.
So I think that we've got someone making comments here. Obsessed, actually, says Michael. Yeah, we can become obsessed with this whole thing. So how has your journey been? You have had several workshops or events at your church, Mile High, and with introducing the Enneagram to your people. How's that been? Has there been some hard discoveries people have made? How are people coping with the nitty-gritty of some of these revelations that come up as you study, some of the shadow sides of the types?
My experience in working with people in the workshops and even working with people privately is that it seems like it can be both very freeing and awakening to discover that self, depending on where people are. If I really am in a place where I'm ready to, I might be in pain, or I might be sensing that it's time for me to go to an evolutionary next step in my experience of myself, then this discovery and seeing myself through the lens of the Enneagram, even seeing my blind spots and where my personality has been choking my essence, essentially, is kind of exciting and freeing, and wow, that's amazing. That's often the people who are in New Thought, who are on the search and have been for a long time, of self-discovery and the deeper self. And occasionally, if I've gone through a painful period, or I'm in a painful experience of myself where I'm getting kind of sick of myself. I know that's where I was when I first found the Enneagram. I was just sick of my patterns and sick of what I now know were my blind spots. And when I saw myself in the Enneagram, we were saying a minute ago, the type that I lead with was the type that I was like, oh, I don't want to be that type. And it was, the most surface oriented type. I thought the overachiever and needing to be affirmed and all this. And so I was trying to push it away and trying to be every other type until I finally had to surrender. And so that was kind of painful. And I think I see people sometimes in that space too, where it's like, oh, I really am a 4, or I really am a 2, or we like to say lead with, but it can be kind of either way, a kind of surrender and a place to then jump off of for further growth.
Yeah. Me too. I find that with some of my clients, when they're studying, they'll find these things and it will be a revelation, and they'll think, yeah, I think I'm going to take a break from this for a while.
Yes.
It's just like, all right. And for me personally, I'm a 4. I lead with 4, and it really described me. I love to go deep. I love to think of myself as special and unique and creative, and it's a desire to have people see me in that light. And so all of this, I thought I was keeping on the down low, kind of inside. And then I realized, as I saw it on the pages, that it's almost like an unhidden, a hidden agenda. A lot of the time that we're working on, and but when we're ready to do the work, when we do get sick of ourselves, stuck in some of these strategies, or a particular relationship that we have struggles with, and we've gone to counseling, or we've had therapy, or we've done work, or we've done the things that we need to do, and it things aren't shifting, I think this Enneagram discovery of the potential of who we can be, as we merge our ego with our essence. It's
Mhm.
not about banishing those parts of us.
No, you can't
It
have an egoectomy, right? No,
No, no, no,
not
no,
what's meant to happen.
no.
Mm-mm. Mm.
It's about seeing it and inviting it in, and sort of maybe even pruning off some of the old behaviors and habits and thought patterns, knee-jerk reactions that we might have in difficult situations. And it sort of gives you a perspective.
Mhm.
um, I I love to read Michael Singer, and he talks about that
Yes.
witnessing presence. And
Mhm.
you get to see yourself. And with a lot, I think also the Enneagram, in this ego essence conversation, really gives rise to self-compassion
Yes.
and compassion for others,
Yes.
because it can be brutal and shocking to come to some of these discoveries. And so I thank God for the years that I have practiced self compassion, because
Mhm.
that came in very powerfully with my journey with the Enneagram. It's learning
Yes.
how to be gentle with myself.
I think it's really important in that regard to remember that, as far as I know, just about every human has had to go through this to some degree or another. We are not ever alone or more broken or more messed up or more dysfunctional than other people because we get to see ourselves in this light. It seems like it makes perfect sense that, given the structures that we grow up in, no matter what part of the world we grow up in a family, we grow up in a culture. We often are given a faith tradition that our family practiced, or we go to school, or we get some sort of education, or we're in a tribe, or we're in something where there is this uh, attention to helping a human develop within that construct. And much of it is helpful and supportive, and it's meant to be giving a little human a roadmap for success. And a lot of it isn't. And every human, no matter where they are on this planet, at some point grows up to they call it individuation oftentimes in psychology. They grows up to kind of look and reflect on their lives, and has the task at hand to say, how much of what I was told and given do I want to continue forth, and how much do I want to let go of, not only of what people told me about the way the world works, but what has been told about myself. How much of who I am and what I've discovered about who I am as a little one, or as a teenager, or a young adult, is it time for me to surrender or embrace? And every human, to the degree that they're willing to go through that trial by fire, will discover the richness of who they are at that essential nature. And I think we all have to do it to some level, all of us. I mean, even I think people like Jesus, who many might say came here fully orbed with the divine. Honestly, there are a lot of books that were not included in the canon of the Bible that show us that Jesus also, those years that people say were lost, no, they weren't lost. He was off doing the stuff that you and I are doing right now, probably discovering what his ego was like and what his essential nature was like, and opted to lean into that essential nature, which gave him access to something deep within him that then became the starting point, the grounding point for him to become the luminary that he has been to humanity. And every human, every human walks this path. So I think we can kind of take a deep breath and say, I'm not weird, I'm not broken, there's not something essentially wrong with me, that I have to do this work, that it's part of this human experience. It's normal. You're
Yeah.
normal. Mhm.
Yeah, those lost years of him studying and learning and finding himself
Yes.
to become, the divine example
Yes.
rather than the divine exception.
Absolutely.
And him he said that we are to do greater things,
Yes.
meaning that we have that opportunity to discover our ego
Mhm.
and to emerge, be in the world but not of the world, so
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
speak. And so the Enneagram, and it is categorized into 9 different
Yes.
personality. And I feel like this is my current viewpoint, and it's always evolving. Current view is that we're here as we're doing this depth work, this inner work, as we're waking up to, we can take the Enneagram and see that as 9 different pathways,
Mhm.
not 9 exclusive pathways for each of the types, but 9 different roads all of us might want to explore, because the Enneagram really gives us some ideas of what might be missing in our own experience. As
Right.
we, maybe me being a 4, I may want to look to the 3,
Mhm.
or
Yeah,
to me, but the 5.
you can use your other numbers you're connected with, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
so there's a lot for me in simply exploring these different types, because I'm learning more about what I may have not known is even possible for me to develop,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
a deeper, willingness to express myself, as the 3 side of me might want to be more involved in performing or achieving or identifying with the work I do in a different way.
Right.
Or I may want to move into my 5 wing that might be more interested in going deeper, learning more, becoming
Right.
more of an expert in something,
Mhm.
um, or learning how to be easier with giving and receiving.
Mhm.
There's little subtle gifts that I can see as I've explored each of the Enneagram types. It's like, ooh, I'll have a little bit of that, and
Mhm.
a bit of this, and I'll take a little bit of that. Oh, do I do that? So it's a way of not just locking into, oh, I'm a 4 and I'm going to learn all about that. It's about, I think it was Father Richard Rohr, or some Enneagram guru, that said it's not about placing you in a box. It's about seeing the box that you've been living
Yeah.
in.
Yes.
So we get to see this box of our own creation,
Right.
personality structure, and we get to sort of, peek out over the top of that box and say, there's a lot more for me. And the Enneagram is like a big menu.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
shows you a lot of the things that maybe things like textbooks that we've read, Science of Mind, it's very general. It's like
Mhm.
wisdom for everyone. Now, this
Right.
is wisdom specifically so you can understand the deep human condition.
Mhm.
And it really is an interesting and very revolutionary, evolutionary path, I think.
Yes. 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 Great.
Yeah.
Great. Mhm.
So, should we talk a little bit about the difference between our ego and our essence, so we can
Yes. Yes.
sort of, I really love, like, flowing and just talking about it, because it feels like when we're together, and I'm open, we're having a conversation, it's almost like I'm open to new ideas, more possibilities around this conversation, than I am when I'm just,
Mhm. Mhm.
reading a book. It's like I'm actually talking about it. I'm giving my higher self an opportunity to speak up.
Right.
So
Right.
it's almost like, I hate to use this word, no, I hate to use it, but it's almost like channeling from
Mhm.
my higher wisdom
Mhm. Allowing your
versus,
higher wisdom to express itself.
exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, because people have different ideas of what the ego is.
Mhm.
So what would you say, currently, as you've been on this path with the Enneagram for some time now, how would you describe the ego for someone here listening today that may not understand what we're getting at here?
There's a concept in our New Thought teachings that I love dancing with, and it's the unity and the diversity. So I think that for me, what I would define the ego as the expression of me that makes me uniquely me, everywhere from my unique DNA to that makes my body, to my unique personality and my unique belief structure or ideas or ideals that I have created for myself, many of which are I'm aware of and that are in my conscious mind, and many that are in the deeper mind or the subjective or subconscious mind that I formed early on that might have caused me to say, oh, that's good, that's bad, that works, that doesn't. All of which is born out of the human experience of a child at first, because we all come into this world and our children first before our brains continue their development into the adult brain. And so some of that is it's not all that functional to say, for example, if I fell in the water once and it scared me, to say all water is bad.
Mm,
But that's sometimes what that ego part of us does. It's often a a technique for protecting ourselves or concluding what the world is like. And it may take growing up and saying, gosh, I have this irrational fear of water that the ego has taken on to say, we don't want to go near the water anymore because we fell. And you may not consciously remember that memory, but there's this kind of automatic reaction. And that's part of, I think, my ego. It's also the part of me. I think we all have an element of self-interest that people get angry with each other about, but I think it's a natural part of the human experience to want to do what's best for myself and make choices that serve me. And people will say, oh, they're so selfish, or they're only thinking about themselves. Well, all human beings are, I think, because of this ego structure. And through some spiritual teachings, I love the work about letting go of the ego. But I also said, like, I also believe, like I said earlier, I don't think that the ideal is to be egoless. I think the ideal is to be in that perfect balance of oneness and diversity, where I am absolutely diversely me, as distinct from Allie Benjamin, while also falling into the essential nature that connects us. So
mhm.
it's the both and approach. It's not the either or. And I think in spiritual life and in human life, we tend to sometimes want to be in the polarities. I'm either this spiritual being that's just floating without any ego, or I'm really caught in my ego. But there's shades of it, just like we talk about in the Enneagram. You were just talking about when you lead with a 4, you've got these wings. And I think they're kind of like, they can be shades of those other numbers that can dance with us and we can dance with, that can help us to develop the most balanced sense of ourself as we would like, or use those other qualities to help us. It's the same thing with this concept that the ego, while it distinguishes us from other beings, it also and it can be a joy to celebrate and be our unique self. We also have the responsibility to look at, where am I doing that in a somewhat irresponsible way, where I'm limiting myself, I'm believing not enough in myself, I think I'm not lovable, I think I'm not good enough. That's a lot of the ego that has come to like childish conclusions, like all water is bad. That's the
Mhm.
same thing. All water is bad because I had an experience where I had a danger with water. It's the same thing as saying, well, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable enough. Not true, just not true. And yet we persist in feeding those beliefs. And that's part of the ego self, I think.
Yeah.
That's a simplified, somewhat simplified version, uh, psychologists like Jung and Freud and others have come up with very elaborate uh, definitions of the ego, but that's mine. And I know that we're approaching our time when we have to take a little break too. So. I'll stop talking now. I'm getting lots of great comments. I'm so glad to see my friend Carl here, and Benjamin's made some great comments, and Kathy's here. That's great. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh,
All
and
right. Well, we will take a short break and we will come back and finish talking about the ego and get
yes.
into the essence. We'll see you in a minute.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Welcome back to Growing Edge Live. I noticed there's a comment by one of our viewers, and it says, thank you so much to both of you. I am stuck and this topic has been recommended. I am excited at diving deeper. Yeah, a lot of people are ready to do this work. I think in the world in general right now, there's a lot that's up. Mm-hmm. And when there's a lot of things that are up in the world, it has a tendency to trigger us or make us angry or frustrated or sad or disappointed. And so understanding our ego is a really beneficial thing to be able to say, okay, that's me. That's what I'm doing. I want to hone in. I want to really see this. And I want to dissolve some of this for myself. Mm-hmm. Because I know it's possible, because I don't always feel this way. Sometimes I'm feeling, free of everything, and life feels very enjoyable, and my relationships are flowing smoothly. And then there's other times when I sort of get trapped. And I think that's a component or an element or an aspect of the ego. It's this tightening. It's this narrowing in to where we feel sort of small and tight. And then when we awaken, when the ego softens, there's more of an expansive feeling. Mm-hmm. And so that, I think that is a good thing to just to state, mm-hmm. that you can feel that. Even as I'm describing it, I can, I recollect times recently where I've been in a lot of sadness or a lot of frustration, and then there's other moments, and there's, okay, this too shall pass. And that can be really annoying to hear when you're stuck in that dark or that tight spot. But there's an essence of that with the Enneagram, that, okay, this is a wave. This is, you're feeling this at the moment, but it's an indication that you've sunk down below the line.
Mhm. Yes, below the line, that's good, yes. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So let's talk a little bit about some ways that because we don't know what we don't know. It's kind of like the nose on our face. Like when we're doing that thing, or when we're in that aspect or that ego state, we may not recognize it because we're just, it's how we're feeling. And then
Mhm.
we identify, oh, that's me. I'm angry.
Mhm.
I'm sad.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
resentful. But it's
Mhm.
not. It's a phase. It's a part of you.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm thinking, not that I want to go through each of the types,
Mm-mm.
but just some of the ways that we get stuck like that,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
just hearing it might say, oh, yep, that's me. And
Mhm.
I think that some of us, all of us at some point or the other, but some more than others, can get into a real critical phase, being very judgmental of things, or having a lot of opinions about other people and what they're doing and what they're not doing. And that could be a sign that we've been overtaken by our ego. And so at that moment, it's like, oh, here I am again. I'm find myself running a story about so and so, or even myself, that I'm not good enough, or they should be better, or something like that. And then that's an opportunity to pause, take a breath. This too shall pass. But to honor those feelings, like, oh, I'm not going to go into a lot of blame or self-degradation here. I'm going to just know this is a part. This is a momentary feeling, might last a bit longer than I want, but I can see it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
criticism, what other ways do people get into unhealthy patterns?
I think that in the way the Enneagram can definitely help us in that dance you're talking about, in that experience, is to be very aware with regards to the type we lead. What are some of the words and energy of the blind spot, and what are some of the words and energy of my essential nature? Like, and I agree with you, I don't think we have the time to go through every single one, but for example, let's talk about a one. So a person who leads as a one might find that they're in that toxic thought pattern of who's right and who's wrong, who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong. Now, that in and of itself is not a horrible conversation, because that is one of the gifts of the one. But the difference from me when they've fallen below the line is the toxic pissosity that might come with those kinds of thoughts. When they're obsessive, when they're filled with anger and resentment, and there's a toxic energy or even almost a righteous energy,
Mhm.
it's likely those feelings, that energy likely is an indication that a sweet one is in their ego mind, and that there's fear on board, or old patterns that haven't yet been resolved, versus the essential nature of a one does have to do with integrity and perfection. But integrity is defined as wholeness. So a one could help themselves kind of pull out of that state, I think, and get above the line a little bit more by really asking what could bring wholeness to that situation, even if I can't bring it right now. But what in my mind would be representative of wholeness, the divine wholeness showing itself, or divine perfection, or even a question for a one could be to pull themselves above that line. How could what is happening right now actually really be perfect? And I'm
Mhm.
just not seeing it.
Yeah.
Ooh, I could feel the impact of that one even in my nervous system right now. It makes me go,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. Because there's a rigidity in
yeah,
that. There's a trying to control things in that. And so
yes.
asking that question, how could this be perfect? Or
Mhm. Could
it
this be
open,
the right thing that is supposed to be happening right now, and
right,
I'm just not seeing the whole picture?
right, because there's this sense of closing in.
Mhm.
So the relaxing, opening up gives us greater perspective on
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a lot of tendency to control others, not just with type 1, but in general, humans struggle with trying to control situations,
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
or the outer
Mhm.
world.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
and, in our ego is often our woundology. I know for me as a 3, somehow the woundings of my life taught me when I was young that you have to be perfect, and you have to behave, and you have to be good, and you have to be productive, and what I do was more important than who I'm being, and I think
mhm,
I have more of a yearning, like, to be the authentic self, like a 4. I admire 4s who are authentic because I've got that 4 wing and I want to be authentic. So I have to watch myself and feel myself when I'm trying to impress you, or I'm trying to get you to like me, or I'm working my butt off to try to do something for someone just so they'll be happy with me when I really didn't want to do that in the first
mm,
place. That's some of my own. So I think it is not only controlling other people, but also wanting to control your response that is connected to my woundology, that I
right.
have some desperate need for you to be impressed with me or like me, and I know that feeling now at this age. I finally can identify it, and I can say to myself, "Oh, you're doing it again. Just
Mm,
stop. That is just bleh, it's not who I wanna be." And then like you say, I have to take a deep breath and try to fall into my essence where I have a high value for being authentic. And
mhm,
what would it be like if I could be authentic and say, "This isn't working for me right now," or "I don't really wanna go that direction," or "I don't agree with you," or I'm whatever it might be, and I can do it with love and peace, because also from our ego or our woundology, there's an intense need to control, I think. Do you feel that too about the ego self? There's
oh yeah.
like safety comes in. I'm going to control the narrative or control the situation.
Yeah, and that's typically based out of some fear
Yes.
that we've identified for ourselves or not. So
Mhm.
that unidentified fear is then causing that need to control,
Yes.
or that need to keep. For a lot of people, we want to maintain healthy relationships, or
Mm.
not even take the word healthy out there. We want to maintain a relationship at any cost.
Right.
So
Yes.
we're
Mhm.
going to adjust to be somebody that we think the other person's going to like, in fear that they won't approve of us, or they won't
Right.
appreciate us, or they might leave us. And so we've got all these little strategies that we've developed, typically unconsciously playing them out ever since childhood.
Mhm.
And we're able to see them more clearly, like,
Mhm.
yes, I'm being pushed, I'm being motivated by fears here,
Mhm.
this fear to be right. Maybe
Mhm.
there's a
Right.
fear to be right. And
Right.
so there's that kind of part of you takes over. And we know how that plays out. I
Mhm.
think with that term, do you want to be right, or do you want to be
Or
happy?
be happy. Yeah. Mhm.
So it's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing how this works.
Mhm.
um yeah, so maintaining relationships and maybe doing things that we wouldn't necessarily, like you said, I'm doing this thing because I want this person to like me, but I didn't even want to do this thing in the first place.
Right.
So we start to question, like, what's my motivation here? I think
Mhm.
that's a good question to
That's a
have,
very good question.
to kind of root out or ruffle up the ego's feathers, or
Mhm.
ruffle up the essence's feathers, maybe. What's my motivation here?
Mhm. Mhm. What need am I seeking to fulfill
Mm,
right now? And again, I think for me, the doorway of the essential nature of myself has really become clearer, and it helps me to make a shift when I'm in that egoic space. And the other part about the ego is that it does, when I was saying earlier that it represents the part of us that is diverse, what can happen if I'm really stuck in my ego is I feel separate from everyone else.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
can feel disconnected, and I can even feel like I'm special and unique, which is part of the egoic aspect of the force sometimes, that urge to be special and unique. And everyone is special and unique. That's something that is also in the Course in Miracles. Like, we're all special and unique. And so it it can cause me to isolate myself in a way that's not healthy. Whereas when I'm coming out of it, I am seeing the resources that exist as support from other people, or even just connecting and sharing with other people. The ego self sometimes will cause us to believe we're some special case, as I think I've pointed to a number of times in our conversation so far, some special unhealable case that, and
Mm.
no other human has ever had what I've had to go through, kind of thing. And it's like, no, that's just not true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the ego will cause us to believe these things about ourselves,
Right.
and then we disconnect to some, even if it's in our imagination.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so as you're talking about these different aspects, I'm also thinking about, not putting ourselves first, but
Yes.
like putting ourselves way down on the list. We may not even realize this is happening until we start feeling resentful, like because we're overdoing for other
Or
people.
exhausted. This is how people burn themselves out too, isn't it?
Right, exactly. There's
Mhm.
so many signs, symptoms that the ego, when we're in that ego state or that hypervigilance or whatever state that we're in that feels tight and manic, and, where we can get exhausted,
Yes.
and we can also burn out our relationships because we're, can become too much.
Mhm.
And so there is this
Yeah.
softening when we're
Yes.
super over identified with our image,
Mm.
or we're identified with a particular role that we play, an identity, when we're over identified with, our title, um, as being the boss or
Right.
the teacher, and we take on that role to the point that that's not who we are. That's a role we play,
Mhm.
and we can start to soften the edges about it. It's not like you said, you can't have an egoectomy. You can't stop being this personality that you've created. I guess you could go to the Himalayas and go into a cave and get rid of that whole thing and just be a,
Maybe. I don't
but I
know.
don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Because so here we get to blend it and merge it and mature the ego. I
Mhm.
think this is what the here in the West, when we think of having a spiritual awakening, it,
Mhm.
it's our ego that's awakening to come online to our soul, our essence. And
Yeah.
go
Yeah,
ahead,
the
Abby.
merging, the conscious merging of the two. I mean, there's never a separation of the ego and the essence. That's an illusion. But there's where is our awareness? Is our awareness caught up in and like firmly anchored in the egoic sense of self? And you're right. I think the spiritual awakening is awakening to, oh my gosh, this essence of who I am is so huge and includes the sense of myself, my personality, and my uniqueness, but there's a depth that's like, oh, wow, powerful. And there's limitless energy there, and there's wisdom and guidance, and um there's true fulfillment in living, for sure.
Mm. Yeah, I'm picturing, when we're in that ego state, it's as though we're really in tune with the past. Like we're
Yes. Yeah.
bringing it all along with us, even
Hmm.
if it's unconsciously. It's
Hmm.
as though, because we didn't process things earlier
Yes.
on
Hmm.
while they were happening in a mature way,
Hmm.
there's all these unresolved things that are then
Right.
like this energy that is we're lugging it along,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so it's sort of a realizing what we're bringing forward into, because many people will, get divorced and go into a new relationship only to have similar relationship issues. It's
Mhm.
because there's these unresolved parts of our personality that we unconsciously haven't processed through or understood or whatever, that then just like it just oozes out of us. So
Yes.
I think the merging the ego and essence in an awakened state is when we are living in the fresh new now, sort of like, think Eckhart Tolle and all these teachers that have underscored the importance of being present and living in the now moment. And
Mhm.
it's because we're more in touch with that deep reservoir of our essence, and less bringing in some of the poison from the past unresolved things. So what do you think about that with, the this lugging things? The ego has a sense of lugging a lot of the past into the
I
future.
think that's definitely a huge part of how we can know that we're caught up in our egoic self, is that we're reacting from past experiences that are not right here and right now. And that's one of the gifts I think, and I articulate for myself and others a lot of times, that this spiritual path, and even this path of understanding the Enneagram and deepening into the spiritual path, it does not ever mean that my life is going to be some perfect experience and everything's always going to go right. But what I believe is that um, when I have touched into this essential self and discovered those gifts and strengths that live at the core of who I am, then how I respond to the things that occur, whether they're the things I'm happy about or things I'm unhappy about, become much more centered and grounded. I feel much more empowered. When I'm caught up in my egoic self, then my response will, you're right, I think, always be from my past experience, my past pain, my past wounds, my past fears. I'm not fully in the presence, but having this awareness of myself as this eternal, deepened, essential self gives me a strength and a power that I can respond to anything that occurs and find my way out of any challenge. And that to me is
Mm-hmm.
true power.
Yeah.
Power is not, I control my life so that nothing bad ever happens to me again. No, power is, I control my life and am connected to myself in such a way that no matter what unfolds in my experience, my ability to be with it and be present to it and respond to it and move through it is powerful and contributes to my growth and awakening, as well as the growth and awakening of all the other human beings that I share my life with, and indeed the whole world and universe. It's a bigger game. So yeah, it's timeless then at that point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's an amazing, what you're describing is fabulous, to have this understanding that at any given moment we can tap into these divine qualities, if you
Mhm.
will.
Mhm.
These states of being kind and caring and compassionate and curious and creative, and we can use these innate
Mhm.
soul qualities to navigate our world, to interact with other human beings,
Mhm.
to bring into our work environments, to use these, to activate them and use these qualities in service of humanity, in
Mhm.
service of our own lives and our well-being and our lifestyles. It's so it's very clear to see right in this moment how easy it is to come from that space.
Yes.
And so I think this whole entire conversation has really helped me to see, okay, there is a distinction between ego and essence when I'm in that ego space and when I'm in that essential space. There are some spaces, that liminal space, where it's not quite as clear. Like I'm not, who am I again? So we kind of swing back and forth, it seems like. And so developing a capacity to navigate the swings. I think of the Buddhist teachings about the middle way.
Yes.
There's this, on one side, there's this clinging, this wanting these things. And then on the other side, there's these aversions. I don't want this, I don't want that. And so there's these cravings and clingings and these aversions and avoidance. And then there's this middle way where we can soften that. We're still, as human beings, going to have desires and wants and needs. We're still going to have things that we don't, want or like particularly. But it's handling this play of life with more grace.
Yes.
Understanding that we have the potential to tap into our divine qualities, our higher capacities or aspects of our being, and be that, like bring that forward as we show up in our everyday life, without succumbing to the ego's allure of saying, yeah, but what did you see that look she just gave you? Or that's not fair. Did you watch what was going on the news? And then we get like, woo, spiral into that place of
absolutely. Yeah.
So what should we leave everyone with? You've got 1 minute, Michelle. What
Don't ever give a minister 1 minute to say something, Allie. No, you're right. 1 minute. I just think that this work is worthy of all of us to really help ourselves be happier, more energetic, and more connected, which I think is what we crave, to ourselves and to the conditions of our life in a powerful way. So finding ourselves in this system and then doing the work to let go of the blind spots or the ego self for the sake of the higher essential self. It's worth it for a happy life.
There you go. You heard it. Now, how can people get in touch with you? I know you have a website, 9 Paths to the Soul.
9 Paths to the Soul.
Yeah, there you go. So 9pathstothesoul.com, and you work with individuals and helping them understand this.
Yeah, I have a number of packages on the website that talk about my work, that how you could work with me if you'd like to, and you do too, right?
Awesome. Yes.
Yes.
All right, Michelle, thank you again for this.
Thank you.
Amazing conversation.
It was great, Allie. Thank you so much.
Lots of love. Love you. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for being here today. And I know that you've enjoyed this conversation with Michelle about ego and essence. And I hope that something that we discussed today impacts you and helps you to live with more power and purpose and playfulness. So namaste, peace and blessings. And thank you to New Thought Media Network. Bye-bye.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge.